He was so stubborn. And he wouldn't even consider any of my suggestions. I was introduced to him about 3 years ago by one of the doctors in our clinic. And I was kind of shocked when I met him. He had pasty skin, and his hair was stark white. He was rail thin. And he looked much older than his actual age. He was a very, very ill man. Now, I, on the other hand, I was a brand new community health worker. I was so excited about my new career. I was confident in my abilities. I was so excited about all the resources that I had to give to this man. Now, in the beginning of our working relationship, he wouldn't allow me to do much for him except give him a food bag from our food shelf every now and then and arrange transportation to and from his medical appointments. But after a while, he started to open up and tell me a little bit about his life and about his medical situation. So I learned that for years, he had worked on a dock unloading trucks. But he had been laid off because he became so frail. And now he only had a very limited income. And he had recently received an eviction notice from his landlord. You need disability, I told him. I know how to do that. And you could probably qualify for emergency assistance through the county. I know how to do that too. In actuality, you could probably use assisted living. Oh, and the doctor told me to get you a portable oxygen machine. I know how to do that too. He just flat out said no to everything that I suggested. He said to me, if I could just get back to work, I could pay my own way. If they would just let me just sit and unpack boxes, I could pay for everything myself, but they just tell me not to come back to work. I totally understood where he was coming from. This went on for several weeks. Me consistently offering help and resources, and him consistently turning down my offer for resources and help. Finally, I became exasperated. I said, why won't you let me help you? You are a very sick man. You worked for years paying into the system. You need these services. Why won't you accept them? That's what they're there for. He said, Shawn, if I accept disability, I will be considered disabled. And I don't want the county to pay my rent. I want to pay my own rent. And as for assisted living, I won't even consider that because I want to live in my own place surrounded by my things. Fine, I said, fine. But what about the portable oxygen machine? You can't even have a conversation without running out of breath. He said, you don't understand. If I leave this apartment with a portable oxygen machine, I will be a target. People will see me as weak and I'll be a marked man. Oh, that stopped me in my tracks. I realized he didn't live in the greatest neighborhood, and if he left his house with this machine, he would be assaulted. It was then that I realized that I had been handling this all wrong. Instead of listening to my patient and really hearing him, I was too busy telling him what I thought he needed. So I decided to just stop and listen. He would dictate to me what he wanted. I would repeat what I thought I heard him say. I'd come up with a game plan. If he was agreeable to that game plan, we would move forward. And it was at that point that we became true partners in this relationship. Over time, things just started flowing into place. And he even started accepting some of the things that I had suggested earlier. We started the disability process. The county agreed to pay his rent so he wouldn't get kicked out. He still would not even consider assisted living or the tank, but that was fine. That was his choice. I respected that. And things just really started flowing and moving into place. till the day that I tried reaching him on the phone. I called him several times to give him some information, but he just wasn't answering. And I just had this feeling. So I called community paramedic to please go out to his house and check on him. And soon I received a phone call that said my patient had passed away. And I was so shocked and saddened. It was just shocking because everything was finally moving forward. And I have to admit, I naively thought that if I could get enough services in place, I would somehow be saving his life. But he died. And one of the nurses in my clinic suggested that I take solace in the fact that this man lived and died on his terms. Not in a hospital, not in a nursing home, but in his home, surrounded by his things. And I have to admit that even though it's been 3 years, I still am honored to have worked with him. And I've learned that in patient-centered care, it's a partnership between the patient and the caregiver. That patient is in charge. And my job, even if I don't agree with what he wants, my job is to try to make that happen to the best of my ability, because I am the servant. Thank you.